Let's move on now. While a fragile ceasefire between the United States and Iran remains in place, the battle over a blockade has intensified in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's military has issued a stern warning for Washington. Tehran says that the U.S. forces will be attacked if they enter the strait, adding that ships passing through it must coordinate with Iranian authorities. The warning comes after the U.S. announced it is ready to guide commercial ships through the waterway in a new effort to end the blockade.
The world would neither accept America's humanitarian gestures, nor would it believe that the US could exit this self-made quagmire. That has caused many problems for the region, for the US itself and the international community, through repeating past mistakes.
Despite a blockade in place, the American military claims 2 US-flagged merchant vessels transited through the Strait of Hormuz, but Iran has outrightly rejected the claims. It says no vessel has passed, and the claims made by the U.S. officials are baseless and lies. This comes after Trump announced the U.S. will guide ships through the strait under the operation called Project Freedom. According to United States Central Command, Operation Project Freedom will include guided missile destroyers, over 100 aircraft, unmanned systems, and 15,000 personnel. Commander Brad Cooper says the mission is critical to global economic stability. As standoff over Hormuz continues, Iranian state media says Iran's navy has launched cruise missiles and rockets near U.S. destroyers, forcing them to retreat. Iranian guards have repeatedly warned that maritime movements in the strait will face serious risks if measures applied by Tehran are not observed properly. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Navy have even unveiled a new map of the area or the strait under its control. According to Iranian state media, the area starts in the west with a line between the westernmost tip of Iran's Keheshim Island to the United Arab Emirates Al-Quwain Emirate. In the east, the area stops at a line between Iran's Mount Mubarak and the UAE's Emirate of Fujairah. Meanwhile, the U.S. military has denied that any of its Navy ships had been hit in the Strait of Hormuz after Iranian state media reported that a U.S. frigate was targeted by 2 missiles. U.S. CENTCOM says that the reports are false and that the missiles launched did not even come close to their ships. Iran has maintained a chokehold of the strait since the war began, blocking major flows of oil, gas, and fertilizer to the world economy, while the U.S. has imposed a counter-blockade on Iran imports. A ceasefire took hold on 8th of April, but talks since then have stalled. In other developments, 22 crew members from the seized Iranian ship MV Tuskar have been handed over to Pakistan for repatriation. Pakistan's foreign ministry says the individuals have been flown to Pakistan on Sunday night. The ship was boarded and seized by U.S. forces on April 19th. Iran had condemned the incident as unlawful and a violation of international law and demanded the immediate release of the vessel, its sailors, and their families. So the blockade continues, and Iran says that Project Freedom is a farce and it's not even allowed by Iranian authorities. They say that President Trump continues to lie about the situation at the Strait of Hormuz or in the Strait of Hormuz because the U.S. Navy is not doing their job of guiding commercial vessels to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, because they say the blockade by the United States is still in place, and so it doesn't make any sense why they should reopen the Strait of Hormuz if a naval blockade of their ports is still active. Mr. Peter Kuznick is a professor of history and director of the Nuclear Studies Institute at American University. Is now joining us live on this broadcast. Professor Kuznick, good to see you and welcome. Iran claims that Project Freedom, where the U.S. Navy is guiding commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, is a farce, it's fake, it's baseless. At this juncture, who do you believe? Iran, who are continuously refuting Trump's statement, or the U.S. military and the Pentagon?
That's a bad choice. If you have to choose between the U.S. statements and the Iranian statements, you have to be very, very careful. You have to be skeptical of both. We know that the Washington Post reported that during Trump's first term in office, he lied on 30,573 separate occasions. So, and then Hegseth emulates Trump in his kind of erratic statements. So we're getting reports out of the Gulf and out of the Strait of Hormuz that the Iranians have hit a South Korean vessel, that they've hit an Emirati vessel, that they struck a U.S. destroyer, and the U.S. denies this. What we know is that very few ships are getting through. And the U.S. at times says it's just going to provide information about what are the safer routes for some of these vessels that are stuck to go through based on where the mines are and where Iranian forces are assembled. But then sometimes it says that the U.S. is going to use its Navy and its destroyers to guide the ships through the Gulf. In either case, it's very, very dangerous, and we're getting closer to another escalation and more kinetic warfare, which nobody wants to see, except maybe for the Israelis.
Professor Kuznick, I had saved this question for you yesterday, but I think it's still safe to ask it today. Who, in your opinion, has the cards between the United States and Iran? And this confusion about an imminent peace talk, how will it play out in your view?
If it remains where it is now, Iran has more of the cards, because Iran still has a chokehold over the Strait of Hormuz. And Iran, if it chose, could strike the Israeli nuclear facility in Dimona, which would, if it succeeds, would make large parts of Israel uninhabitable for decades or longer. The United States has cards also. They're horrific cards. The United States has already hit all the strategic sites that it wanted to bomb inside Iran, but that has not weakened the Iranian resolve. But we know that there are people who are urging Trump to go farther and to use nuclear weapons. And if that happens, then all bets are off. So in a sense, both sides have cards. Right now, the way it stands, Iran has the cards. Trump is trapped. The United States is in a very weak position and becoming more and more desperate. However, this has to be ended diplomatically immediately, because the next stages of escalation are terrifying in what they could bring. Not only regional chaos and regional warfare and Iran striking all these Gulf states and U.S. bases in the region, which it's already done very effectively, but even a further escalation. We also know that the munitions on the U.S. and Israeli munitions, and especially the interceptors, are running very, very low. Israel's main interceptors, the Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 interceptors, they started off with about 150 at the start of this war, and now they're down to single digits, which means that if Iran does launch a large-scale attack with drones and with missiles, many of them will get through. It can cause great damage in the region, and we don't want to see that, because even if it ends now, the repercussions economically throughout the globe are going to be felt for months at least, and in the United States, but especially in Africa, especially in Asia, places that really depend on the oil, the gas, the helium, the fertilizer that have gone missing for months now.
Professor Kuznick, it's good to see you. We'll have to end this discussion here. Thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you for having me always.